Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. Here's your host, Morgan Colby and Rick Lemon.
What's going on, Fantasy Champs? Welcome into the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. My name is Morgan Colby. Got Rick Lemon with me as always. It's Pop and Rick.
What's up?
We got football all weekend long.
Isn't football season great?
It is great. Basketball just started up. Hockey's going on. Baseball playoffs. Finally, the drought is over. August blows.
It does. August does blow. I will admit, though, I have not watched any MLB in like over a year.
No, you're fine. You're not missing out on anything.
I did see the Yankees are in the ALCS, so
Yeah. They'll probably lose to the Astros.
Hopefully, as Red Sox fans.
Yeah, as Red Sox fans. But anyway, we jump into Week 7 starts and sits in this episode. We're going to talk about some players that you should start in your lineup, some players that you should leave out of your lineup based on matchups and different stuff. So we'll go through that in a second. Before we do, check out our website, fantasychampions.com. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, or any other podcasting platforms. Please leave a review. Share this podcast with your friends. You're watching on YouTube. Subscribe. Click the bell for notifications. Like and comment down below. Any questions you may have for us. And we can start the starts and sits. You excited about football tonight? Or, obviously pre-recorded, so you guys already watched it. You excited about football?
I mean, again, I might look like an idiot, but I said this on our Thursday night preview show. I don't think this will be a great game. But I want to see D-Hop back. That is the one thing I do want to see.
I desperately want Kyler Murray to get 15 points.
Of a bad week.
Yeah, I would love a terrible week from Kyler Murray.
Just because you said that, he's going to get 40 fantasy points. I did pick up Cardinals defense. Do you like that? Hindsight, people are going to... There weren't really many options.
How many times can you
intercept Andy Dalton? Playing. Yeah.
Yeah, put Jameis the Famous back in.
Well, I guess Jameis has been cleared, but I don't think he's...
No, they think they got something in Andy Dalton.
Yeah, which good luck. That's why the freaking Falcons are going to be better.
He's 100 years old. I will never understand this for NFL teams. Like, if a quarterback is over the age of 35, or let's say over the age of 30, there's no hope.
He's actually only 34.
I was going to say
younger than I thought.
I was going to say over the age of 30, there's no hope. Like, they're either what they are.
Well, right, they are what they are.
You're not going to end up with Geno. It's not going to happen.
I know. Geno right now is like the most rare case scenario, and even then, it's only been 6 weeks. Let's see what the end of the season.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like at some point he's either going to just keep going, and Geno's finally going to be a good quarterback in the NFL, and it only took him a million years, or he'll be trash at some point.
Dude, if he's good, it's going to give hope to literally every bust quarterback of all time. Like, if he plays like this the rest of his career.
It'll set a precedent like no other, and people will refer, who's going to be this year's Geno Smith, and I'm being like, nobody. It's going to be this year's
well, Josh Rosen has actually been a good backup for like 8 years, so he deserves that eighth chance.
I don't even think Rosen has a team, to be honest with you.
I don't think he does either.
Somebody in the world is still holding on to him on their dynasty team.
Sam Darnold. It'll be Sam Darnold. He's the next one.
Yeah, it'll be Sam Darnold. But anyway, like I said, we're going to do starts and sits. We'll start with the starts, move to the sits, and discuss some of those things. The first start we have of this week, Week 7 of the NFL season, is running back Tony Pollard.
Tony Pollard.
You could also reasonably say, let's say, Ezekiel Elliott as well.
Okay, so you like both.
I like both this week. They're going up against the Detroit Lions, who are one of the worst run defenses in the NFL. They are bottom 3 or 4 in DVOA. They are atrocious against the run. They've given up 26.8 fantasy points to the running back position in the first 6 weeks of the season. Zeke doesn't get much pass catching work, but He does get a lot of work on the ground, anywhere between 15 and 20 rushing attempts. Pollard will take probably a lot of the air work and get 10 rushing attempts. So I think there's opportunities for both of these guys to have a good week. I don't know if they'll both have a really good game. So if for whatever reason you have both Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott on your team, don't start both. Pick one and go with it. And like if you had to choose between the two, I probably would say Zeke. But Pollard, definitely a good start this week against Detroit because he provides a higher ceiling in PPR leagues with the pass catching work, and the Detroit Lions are just absolute freaking garbage. So I would expect, is Dak coming back this week? Yeah, he's coming back.
So I was gonna ask you, does it concern you that Dak is coming back this week?
No, I actually think it makes. They're gonna run the same amount they normally do.
Will they? Because they had weeks with Cooper Rush where he had like 18 pass attempts.
Were the running backs getting that much work?
I don't. Against the Rams, the week they won, the Cowboys only threw the ball 16 times, and Zeke had 22 carries and Pollard had 8.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't think that held. Like, what was his average? How many pass attempts did he have in the other games that he started?
Now, the other games, though, he did have a decent 27, 31, 31.
Yeah. It's not super high, but I think that they'll try to, especially in this situation, I don't think they want Dak to come right in and start flinging it all
and
over
throw
the field.
45, 50 passes.
I really think that they're probably going to try to ease him in, which means they'll probably run a lot. But game plan or opponent dictates what the game plan should be. So Detroit can't stop the run. They just can't.
Yep.
And this is a week where Tony Pollard and Zeke I would expect to eat.
Yeah, I mean, Detroit isn't good in any aspect on defense. So
yeah.
I was looking even at some Cowboys receivers. I think like Michael Gallup could have a bounce back week.
Yeah.
I'm forced to start Dalton Schultz in a week, so I'm hoping he does has a bounce back as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do like the Cowboys running backs for all the reasons you said, but also it's probably going to be, my guess would be a positive game script for them.
Yeah.
I would assume they're going to have a lead in this game, especially like in the fourth quarter, and they'll probably just pound the ball at that point. Knowing the Lions, though, they might make a comeback and make it like a one possession game, but we'll still lose.
Right.
But I think Pollard and Zeke will have good weeks. It's hard to say that they both will, though. I'm pretty sure that at least one of them is going to have a really good week, and then the other one will at least put up like low flex numbers. I would probably, if I had to start one, I would also start Zeke, but they're at this point, they're really not far off from each other.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a tough decision, but I would start Zeke. But I think Pollard, if you have him in a league, he's a good flex this week.
Okay. Moving on to the next guy, wide receiver Allen Lazard at the Washington Commanders. That still seems weird to say.
It will be weird to say, I think, for a while.
Somebody online I saw was roasting. Somebody said the Commanders, and they posted a video like berating people for saying the Commander, and they're like, it's just Commanders. It's not the Commanders. I'm like, I say the Patriots.
Yeah, what?
Or the Cowboys.
You could say the
for any
Packers
sports team.
The Cardinals. You could say the Falcons.
I don't think this is a single sports team where you don't say the. So I don't get that. But anyway, Allen Lazard actually, he was one of those guys that coming into the season, I think there were a few people who had him as pegged as a potential breakout candidate because of the talk and the excitement and the lack of receiving core for the Green Bay Packers. And he got off to a slow start. So has the Green Bay Packers offense. Things have not looked great there, but the big thing, he missed game 1. Game 2 only had 3 targets. Game 3 he had 6 targets, but since then he has 8, 8, and 9 targets in the last 3 games. In the last 4 games he has 14, 17, 13, and 17 half PPR fantasy points. Most of this is due to the fact that he is catching touchdowns. He has 4 in the last 5 games, so that is obviously a factor that you have to put into this scenario, but he's definitely been necessarily what people expected him to be. He's not Devontae Adams by any means, but he produces at a mid-range wide receiver 2 level for the most part on a week-to-week basis. So I think if you have him, there's a good chance that you're already starting him as a flex possibly or a wide receiver 2. But there might be some situations where, he's sitting on somebody's bench and, they're toiling with whether to start him against Washington. Washington has given up 33.8 fantasy points a game in PPR to the wide receiver position. And they're, outside of Romeo Doubs, there is really no one else in that receiving core that is going to take the mantle of the fantasy points. So I could see this as a high-end day in the range of, the highest scoring game that he's had on the season, which is 17 to 18 fantasy points. I could see him doing that this week, having a low-end wide receiver 1 week against the Washington Commanders and having putting up a decent performance for your lineup.
Yeah, Lazard's been consistent and has played really well. He is a little touchdown reliant, but that's okay because with Aaron Rodgers there, he's been really targeting him, especially as you said the last couple of weeks. Feels like he's finally kind of the go-to guy. And it's such an easy matchup against the Commanders. I would also say Christian Watson is out. Or it looks like he's going to be out. He hasn't practiced all week. He didn't practice or play last week.
Yeah.
So he's probably going to be out again. I think Cobb is still out. Or it looks like he might be out as well. Sammy Watkins might be back this week, but if Cobb and Watson are out, he's not really going to do much. I would also say that Romeo Doubs could be a good start this week as well because of that.
I agree.
Doubs the last 2 weeks has also been getting a lot of targets. I think he had 9 last week or 8.
Yeah.
And then the week before that he had 5, but then the 2 weeks before that he had 8 again. So he had 8, 5, and 9. So he's been involved in the offense. He just hasn't had the touchdowns. So I think you could reasonably play him this week if you have some bye weeks and you got to plug in somebody. He would be a good option, but Lazard should be continue to stay consistent for you and put up about like 15 to 17 points. Yeah,
agreed. Final guy that we're going to talk about on the start section of this show is Kenneth Walker at the Los Angeles Chargers. I feel like Kenneth Walker should definitely be in starting lineups already.
Yeah,
that would be.
Oh yeah.
Smart to me.
Rest of the season, he's like a high-end RB2.
Right. So I feel like if I had him, I would definitely start him, but I feel like there's a lot of people out there who listen to this show and seek fantasy advice from other venues that would look at Kenneth Walker and go, well, should I start him this week? Just go look up highlights from the last game, and then that'll be your answer. They're also playing the Los Angeles Chargers, who have 25.5 fantasy points a game given up to the running back position. DJ Dallas didn't have really any kind of production or work in the last game they played. I think a lot of people thought there might be somewhat of a split because in the past they've done that, but everything went to Kenneth Walker. And so with that being said, I think if that's the case, I mean, this could be a 20-point game, a big game for Kenneth Walker going up against the Chargers.
Yeah, Kenneth Walker at this point, I think, as you said, he needs to be in your starting lineup week-to-week basis. He's the workhorse there in Seattle, and he's a talented running back getting a workhorse role in an offense that, thanks to Geno Smith, is pretty good. And even though he's not like getting a ton of, I don't think he will get a ton of targets. It's not going to matter if he's getting like 20 carries a game. And if he gets 20 carries a game, I think he's a good enough player where he's going to be able to put up fantasy numbers. Last week, the 19 fantasy points against Arizona, I think he can pretty much do that almost on a week-to-week basis. If I have Kenneth Walker, I'm expecting like 15 to 19 fantasy points, 15 to 20 fantasy points a week. So, yeah, I would definitely plug and play Walker. As I said, I think rest of the season he's probably low in RB2. I was on Twitter, side note. I don't think this requires breaking news sounds, but it's totally off topic. I did want to get your opinion on it real quick. Elijah Moore has requested a trade from the Jets.
Okay.
He's frustrated with his role. And And there was rumors about the Packers being interested with that.
Oh, holy smackaroonies. I would drop everything I have to go get Elijah Moore right now.
Yeah. I don't think the Jets, the report said the Jets don't want to trade him. AJ Brown also tweeted #free Elijah.
Oh, no. We don't need any more of that garbage over there in freaking Philadelphia.
I think they were like childhood best friends though. They work out together in the offseason. I don't think he's going to go to the Eagles though.
Yeah.
There's too much there.
Yeah. I would keep an eye on the situation and see, like if you go and reach out to some, a person who possibly, I don't even know if he would be owned in a league at this point. Is he?
No, he probably got dropped in a lot of leagues.
So
he didn't have a target this week.
I would say it's a decent trade target depending on where he goes. Like if he ends up in Philadelphia, for example, I mean
I wouldn't want that.
I don't want anything to do with that. A lot of people are
but
running
Packers.
The other piece of news that has been the Packers would be wonderful. That would be like either Elijah Moore would click with Aaron Rodgers immediately and he would be elite, or he would just not target him. So it could go either way.
Well, the Jets don't. I mean, they don't really care because they're winning right now. And their offense has been really good. Like their rushing has been really good. Mm-hmm. But as someone who watches a lot of Jets games,
unfortunately,
they don't use Elijah Moore the way he's supposed to be used. They use him as like an outside X receiver, and he's more of like a slot guy. Yeah. He should be used in like more of the short yardage. Kind of like a Hunter Renfrow type role. Like he should be that guy in the slot that gets like 7-8 targets a game.
Right.
But they're using him for like deep balls, and like it's not jump balls. He's like 5'10". It's like it doesn't really make any sense in the way that they're using him. So I understand why he's frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting. There's somebody. This isn't a real report. It's just a want. But somebody said he wants someone the Chargers. That would be my pants would be right off if that happened.
Yeah, I mean, that's 2 receivers there too, but.
Yeah, but with Keenan Allen's injury,
he's dead. I was gonna trade him in a dynasty league, and he's dead. Anyway, all right, let's move to the sits portion of the show. First guy on the sit list is running back Clyde Edwards-Helaire against the San Francisco 49ers. I think Rick said it's the 3rd week in a row that we have put Clyde on this program.
It feels like it. I don't know if it actually is.
San Fran's a tough run defense, and pretty much every week that, unless you have a stud on your team, San Francisco is going to be a defense that is going to be tough for certain running backs. So Clyde is by no means an automatic like start in your lineup on the week-to-week basis. He really shouldn't be.
No.
But he has shown, like we talked about earlier in the season, how the opportunity he was getting, 10, 11, 12 opportunities a game, to the actual fantasy points he was putting up was just unsustainable. 22, 15, 14, 22 in the first 4 games of the season. He only got over 15 touches one time in that stretch. So, the last 2 weeks he's gone back to his same workload, 11, 12, touches, and he's gotten 6 and 3 fantasy points. Against tougher matchups, he really doesn't have a whole lot of success. And against San Francisco, I don't think he has a big game. Unless he scores a touchdown and saves the day, it's going to be a tough day for Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Yeah, it's funny after that start, all the hype for him and stuff. But yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be a tough day for Clyde. I don't think he's going to be as bad as he was against Buffalo, because I do think he'll get some passing work. But what he's done on the ground the last couple weeks is kind of what I expect he's going to do against San Francisco. Yeah. 9 carries, 15 yards, and then last week 9 carries for 33. I don't think he rushes for more than, I think at most he gets like 40 rushing yards against the 49ers defense. His fantasy points are going to have to come through the air. And with Clyde, he could get a random touchdown like he was in the beginning of the year, and ends up getting a decent week because of it. But against San Francisco, it's just a really, really tough matchup. And he's going to be really touchdown reliant. And I wouldn't want to start him with that. Like, for example, if you're slotting in your RB2 right now and you got Kenneth Walker or Clyde, I'm not even thinking about it. I'm going with Kenneth Walker. It's not even close.
Yeah, right. Not even close.
So there's some other guys. I don't think Clyde would be ranked in my top 20 for running backs this week either. So if you have anyone that appears to be like a top 20 back this week, I'd probably play him over Clyde.
Yeah, agreed. Number 2, Bears running backs versus New England. This is more specifically related to David Montgomery, but I know some people are hot and bothered about Khalil Herbert. New England has been far better this year against the run than they've been in previous years. And so right now the points per game totals are in the middle of the pack, I believe, in terms of, or actually bottom of the league, 15 points a game, right next to the 49ers.
Yep.
So they're a tough matchup for running backs at this point. And some running backs have had success with it. I would imagine Chicago is going to try to run the ball a lot in this game, and the Patriots are probably going to be prepared for it. This will be a game where they'll try to get Justin Fields to throw the ball and make mistakes through the air. So I think the Patriots probably have game planned a lot around these two running backs. They've been pretty good against the run this year, only giving up 15 fantasy points a game. And especially if they're giving Herbert more work, this is just going to be like kind of a backfield that's kind of split up a little bit. So I would definitely sit both Bears running backs this week. I don't like the matchup. I don't like the situation. I don't like the RBBC, and I don't like what it would do to your lineup. So sit them.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. The RBBC just makes it even more gross. Patriots defense this year has been probably a top 5 defense in the NFL in a lot of facets of the game. If you take out that Ravens game where Lamar kind of torched them, but outside of that, they've been phenomenal. And they've been good against the run too. And Montgomery is kind of similar where he's touchdown reliant because he's not going to get a lot through the air. So against the Patriots, I don't expect him to be efficient on the ground, and I don't really expect a touchdown. So you're not going to get any production there because he's not going to get like 5 or 6 catches. The most he's gotten this year is 4, and he's had games where he had 0 targets or 1 target. So it's not really there. And then for Herbert, sort of like the same thing. Like it's an RBBC. We really don't know how much work he's going to get. Some weeks it feels like he's going to get more work than others. The coach, I think, did Matt. What is his name? Matt Eberflus.
Yep.
Did say that he's going to ride the hot hand this week. So whoever is playing better, he's going to just give more carries to. So that makes it even grosser from a fan's perspective because we don't know which one that's going to be come Monday. So, I wouldn't touch either of these guys with a 10-foot pole. Would you start Clyde or David Montgomery? You got to start one.
Probably Clyde.
Yeah.
I hate that, but
I probably would too, but it's super gross.
Touchdown upside and a better offense.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the final guy and then send you on your merry way. Chase Claypool at the Miami Dolphins. I also would not be too excited to start what's his name? George Pickens in this game either. Yeah, but if you want to, you can. Miami on the season has not been or has been really good. Not been really good against wide receivers. They've kind of struggled against receivers and given up a lot of fantasy points. But they have also had members of their defense not active for their games. So it looks like their defense is finally coming back to health. And with that being said, some members of their secondary, I believe, are coming back this week. So I think this is going to be tougher as the weeks go along for opposing offenses and their wide receiver rooms. And I think this is a tougher matchup for guys like George Pickens, tougher matchup for guys like Chase Claypool. But I think this is more, to me, the fact that I think some people are still holding on to Chase Claypool. And
well, this
Claypool
past week,
the last 2 weeks, 12 and 26 fantasy points. So
where do you get 26?
PPR.
I'm in a PPR league. It says 23.
Oh, I must have remembered the number wrong. I wasn't staring at it in front of me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought you were looking at it.
So 10. I even gave him 2 fantasy points the week prior in Buffalo. He had 10 and 23 fantasy points the last 2 weeks. And I don't think that continues against Miami. I think he comes back down to earth. He might get 8 to 9 targets. I would hope, that he trends in that right direction if you have him. But, I wouldn't start him this week against Miami.
Yeah. And it's like, it's tough because people are going to see, Miami's been a good matchup and Claypool's been on a hot streak, kind of ride it out. And there are people who see the name Claypool and they like the player. There's players in our league, our home league, that is like that, and that are starting him this week and will start him. And I don't think that's a great idea. I would prefer if Pickett plays. I don't know if he will. If he doesn't, then everybody's screwed. But if he does, then there could be some fantasy value with like Deontay, maybe Pickens. But Claypool, again, very touchdown reliant player. I mean, I don't ignore what happened those first couple of weeks, where he didn't really do anything.
Yeah.
And even the Jets game when Pickett came in, because you could say, well, that was with Trubisky, but when Pickett came in the Jets game, Claypool still didn't really do anything. I think he had 1 target when Pickett came in. So it was disgusting. And then the last 2 weeks, they've clearly tried to get him involved more, and he's been better. But against Miami, I don't think that continues. There's too many mouths to feed there at Pittsburgh. And I think Freiermuth has also been out, and I want to say he's coming back this week, so that takes away kind of Claypool's biggest advantage, which is being the main red zone threat right now.
Yeah.
Because if Freiermuth comes back, he becomes the main red zone threat.
Yeah.
And then Claypool's just going to be big player bust. So I'm not trying to start that. And then Pickens, you could start at your own risk. Very kind of iffy about him as well, but
yeah. Okay. There are your starts and sits for week 7. Easy money, easy cash, easy paper. Hopefully you get a win with this advice. Either that, we're just dead wrong, and we'll be sitting here crying because we lost 2 because we didn't start the right guys. But anyway, we got buys and sells tomorrow. See you later, guys.
See you.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Champions Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes and YouTube, and follow us on Twitter @TheFFChamps.